Um, I think maybe looking ahead, Dr. Julka, there are always new discoveries on the horizon, and I think maybe we want to zoom in a little bit on two specific ones. We hear more and more about genome testing, genomic testing, the sequencing, and on the other hand, a hype right now is precision medicine, right? It means a lot. It could mean a lot. But those are two of the newer strategies that science is looking at. So where does genome sequencing, precision medicine, where do you see that playing a role in both screening, detection, but also in solutions?
Why is the patient progressing? What are the genes responsible for this progression? There we do genome sequencing. And once we do sequencing, we find, for example, PI3 kinase gene is mutated. The other gene is mutated. For every gene mutation, we have a separate drug. Nowadays, what we are doing is not only DNA sequencing, we are doing RNA sequencing also, and we are doing protein sequencing, we shall be doing later. This is multi-omics, we call it. Genomics, transcriptomics, and proteomics. So we call it multi-omics. And this is the future of oncology. Now, coming to the other side, how can we detect the tumor? Because genomics and all these omics are very costly. Let me tell you at the outset, not all patients can afford it, or those who get, we have been getting genomics done from molecular profiling. We call it NGS, next generation sequencing. We get it done from Foundation Medicine in US, in Boston. So what I mean to say, that is a little costly. Coming to the precision medicine, no two patients. I always say stage one, you take two patients, they will not behave alike to the same therapy given to them. So that is why every individual is different. If I've been telling the government after this pandemic, maybe we make this genomic or molecular profiling free of cost for every patient, or less
Wow.
cost or less costly, then we could do genomic profiling for all the patients and find out which are the genes responsible for cancer in that particular individual. And that particular individual will get the same, not the same medicine, but different medicine according to his profile,
Exactly.
genomic profile and clinical profile. So that is called precision medicine. So every individual is different. Lung cancer has multiple genes. Earlier lung cancer, stage 4, we used to say that median survival is 6 months. Now we get 5-year survivals with immunotherapy. Now another therapy has come as immunotherapy for triple negative breast cancers. Triple negative, we call it, where hormone receptors are not present. ERPR, we call it estrogen and progesterone receptors, and where HER2 gene is also absent. So these are called triple negative breast cancers. They are more aggressive and they can be immunogenic. So they might respond to immunotherapy. Say new therapies are on the horizon. We used to talk of gene therapy. Now we are talking of immunotherapy. And then we have antibody drug conjugates. You know, we have made antibodies and we attach the drug to that antibodies and then give the antibody to the patient, and it will go and attach to that receptor and give the drug to that receptor. So healthy cells will not be affected. Only the cancer cells will be affected. These are called antibody drug conjugates,
Yeah.
ADC. And in future, what are we going to get? Antibody protein conjugates. So they will hit the protein which is responsible for cancer. So these are the new things which are coming up in precision medicine.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing.
I
I
also
think
think oncology for the future.
oncology for the future. Well, and also it is so important because a lot of the findings are transferable to other diseases, right? The learnings that you have in oncology, some of your findings can be transferred, I don't know, to cardiology or
Yeah,
something. Yeah.
neurology, cardiology, and this can also play an important role in early detection of cancer. You know what
Yeah.
we do if a patient comes, we do their genomic analysis, even hereditary genes, we do
Mhm.
that. That is comparatively cheaper. So once hereditary genes are present in that patient, their first degree relatives, like their daughters or their sisters, we can screen them because BRCA1 is not only for breast cancer, it is for ovarian, for prostate in their male counterparts, so and pancreas and prostate. So all these cancers can be screened.
Mhm.
So this is also an advantage of screening through genomics.
Yeah.
So this
It's
is another advantage.
unbelievable. I know. It really highlights the importance of investing in science, investing in research, and
Yeah, that,
investing in new therapies, in new ideas and novel therapies.
yeah,
It's when you go outside of the norm, when you go outside of what already is, that you find new ways forward,
very,
right? I want to maybe close with some remarks by both of you on the current situation and what is the ripple going to be, what is the lasting impact going to be, because it's obvious from everything that we know right now that COVID-19 is a nasty disease.
very,
If you're lucky, you have it, and it's the flu kind of sort of. But there is more and more data showing that the impact on the body is months or years or longer. So we will have that to deal with, and we'll have medical science to figure out how to best treat long-term COVID patients. But then we also have the increase in other areas like the cancer. So where do you see that moving? What is the urgency on COVID, the urgency on cancer detection? How do you see those two areas going together moving forward?
we have daycare centers, small daycare centers, where, I am going also to one of the daycare centers, and there it's a small center, non-COVID center, where we can follow this health education. We can detect the cancers early through electronic media. They can be educated at home only. This will have an impact on the early detection because COVID has really, demoralized the people, and people are not coming out. They are so much afraid because a lot of their relatives have died, and this
Yeah.
mortality is quite high. And so people are so much afraid they don't bother about cancer detection.
Dr. Datta, how do you see that? Because you already have pivoted, right? So Arugia, you started out as a cancer screening platform, and that was your focus. Then with the pandemic, you adjusted and you pivoted to address the COVID surge, and now the second or the third wave.
Since our tool is a low contact tool,
Mhm.
which is a digital tool in the hands of frontline workers, and it has various modules like COVID screening and cancer screening. What we are doing currently is, in order to keep the safety in mind of both the ASHA worker and the woman, the women is first screened for COVID-19 basic symptoms, and then based on that they go further ahead and do the rest of the screening of cervical, breast and oral cancer, because that also keeps the healthcare workers safe and their family. So
Yeah.
this is going to be, I think, as sir said, that we need more and more people with non-COVID expertise, with more digital and electronic media tools, so that uh, a lot of teleconsultation can happen for non-critical cases. A lot of ASHA workers can participate in both cancer screening and COVID-19. They are equipped with more and more PPE at the primary, secondary, and tertiary level, so that they don't have to worry about their own safety. And going forward, I think Arogya can play a very crucial role in telling people that, hey, you have a rescue to get screened for cancer, don't worry, because the burden will suddenly become so high that there will be a big hue and cry, because most of the cases will be coming late to the
Yeah.
oncologist. Cancer is not on a holiday. So I think what Arogya can really contribute to is keep the ASHA workers' safety in mind, collect more and more data about COVID-19 at community level, and continue the cancer screening work, which is its core work.
If I think back about the general focus for this podcast, advancing women's agency, I feel very confident that you are addressing all those layers. You are looking at the challenges as a whole. You're looking at the woman as the starting position, and you are very respectful and very aware of where she is as a person herself. And you help her find the confidence and the education and the tools to find the knowledge and the resources that she needs. So from my perspective, you both are true warriors and true contributors to advancing women's agency. And I want to thank you very much for your commitment and your passion and your dedication to women's agency. Not only to women's agency, but to women's health. It means a lot from a personal experience as a woman myself. Thank you very much for this conversation, and would like to offer you the opportunity to say a few parting words if you would like to, Dr. Chulka.
I always used to say that cancer cells don't sleep. They don't have day and night. So
True.
they keep on.
Unfortunately, yeah,
Right. So that is
unfortunately.
why early detection, even during pandemic, is important. And don't wait for the cancer cells to grow and go to any part of the body, because growth does not mean that they will spread only to the local area.
Mhm.
From breast, they will go to the axilla, lymph nodes.
Yeah.
They can go anywhere, liver, lungs, brain. They can go even to the brain. So
Yeah.
that is why I always say that you can arrest them early, you can detect early, and that can early detection is the hallmark to cure.
Dr. Data.
I really want to thank Dr. Julka here, because when we started the journey of Arogya as a proof of concept, when we were nothing really on day one, he helped us to advance women's agency and believe in young kids like us to take the mission forward. And he gave us the wealth of knowledge he has over decades for this. So I think advancing women's agency is possible today for because of people like him and their support. So thank you so much, sir, for helping us throughout.